was born in La Ceiba, Honduras. My mom was a school teacher. Education was really important to her and by default to me from an early age. And I think early on she realized that the opportunities that she wanted for me were not available in Honduras. We moved from the village in Honduras to a village in New York called the Bronx, and most of my life has been in the Bronx. I remember just seeing my mom wake up every day, regardless of how she felt, and go to work because she wanted to provide for my sister and I. I learned English in the 8th grade, so I was in ESL most of my elementary school. When I graduated from high school, initially there was no plans to go to college, just because it wasn't what people did in that school. I was able to secure a scholarship to go to Vanderbilt. I arrived at Vanderbilt unprepared, to be honest, but I was able to do it. And that started a love affair also with education policy. My journey to Harvard was born out of frustration. When I applied for Harvard, I was a college counselor in Richmond, California, which is again a very low-income neighborhood made up of African Americans, but also a lot of Latino and Filipino immigrants. And I had a number of students, and one of them I will never forget. We were talking through what she needed to do to be able to apply for the University of California schools. And she looked at me and she said, "Mr. Figueroa, I'm undocumented. So I don't think that I'm gonna be able to go to school, so I'm not gonna do any of the things that you are asking me to do." And when I talked about what were the causes of that, I kept hearing policy. I wanted to go and learn what this policy was and how can I change it, how can I influence it. And so I applied to schools and I was able to get to grad school to kind of work on behalf of people like her. I started researching programs that will give me or provide the space to be able to do some of that work. And CHCI came up as one of those organizations that could provide kind of that bridge again.
Marvin joined my office in 2010 as a Congressional Hispanic Fellow. He was a talent from day one. He started as a legislative correspondent, very quickly moved up the food train to a legislative assistant, taking on portfolios like education, health, immigration.
Marvin was working for Senator Warner at the time, so we reached out through our Secretary of Health and Human Resources and asked Marvin if he'd be willing to come down and be a deputy secretary, and he accepted. He had some very, very responsible positions.
When I was in Governor Northam's office, we were able to pass Medicaid expansion,
which was a big deal because there was a lot of resistance to it from the other side of the aisle. And because of Marvin's effort working with our Secretary of Health, well over 500,000 Virginians now have access to health care that didn't before. He cares about other people, and he saw the joy in folks, and he also saw the pain that people experienced, and he dedicated his life to helping others.
I returned to Washington because I believe the president when he says that it's time for us to bring decency and civility back to public service. Currently, I'm the director of the Office of Intergovernmental and External Affairs at the Department of Health and Human Services, which is a long title. At any given moment, my team across the country is working with governors and mayors, but they're also working with individuals who are oftentimes the last seen, the last heard, or the last in line. And the goal there is to bridge the gap between the policies that we pass here in DC and Washington and what the folks really actually need in the field.
Everywhere he went, everybody he talked to, everybody loves Marvin Figueroa. So again, there's nobody more deserving of this award than Marvin. I'm just really happy for him.
My life experiences have given me the opportunity to see so many different aspects of America. From being an immigrant and looking at her as a beacon of hope where everything is possible, to living in the Bronx and recognizing that that's not always the case. There's an imbalance between those who have opportunities and those who don't.
Marvin Figueroa has an extraordinarily bright future, whether it be in public policy, whether it be on the business side or entrepreneurial, or as a candidate himself.
I hope that he'll continue to reach out and help people, and I hope someday he runs for public office, because we desperately need more Marvin Figueroas out helping people right now in this country.
Regardless of where this job takes me or regardless of where I go next, I will always be engaged in ensuring that America is as close to her ideals as possible.